Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, and today we're going to take on a Abu Garcia 6600 C4. I had a pair of these come in. They're high-speed ambassadors, and one is a little bit smoother than the other, but we're going to show you how to take this apart, how to service this, and how to make sure it's ready for the upcoming season. So we always start by taking the handle off and getting to that gear side plate, because that's where all the action is. And to do that, you want to remove the holding clip that prevents that handle nut from turning loose. That's usually held in by a set screw and a clamp. There's various designs on these with the bait casters. Some have a cap over them. Some have that little clip beside them. Regardless, that's the purpose of that. And then we're going to use a 10mm wrench to take that cap nut off. And then you'll notice I'm taking the pieces and parts as I remove them and put them into a parts tray. In this case, simply the bottom of a milk jug. And then we have a C-clip here, and the C-clip holds the pinion shaft on, and also prevents the handle from coming off. So there's a couple of different ways to take the C-clip off. Usually there's not a lot of tension on that, and you can usually just grab it if you have the hand strength with a screwdriver, a little pick. They do make tools for this to remove these E-clamps. I always call it C-clamp, but it's an E-clamp. And if you're just careful, you can pick that off, and I just did that with a little pointed awl. You can see it has the effect of the letter E. It has the 2 points and then the 1 point in the middle there. And again, back into that parts bucket. With that, you can pull the handle off. There's a tension spring that goes beneath that. And then we can remove the star drag adjuster nut. Once that comes off, then you're ready to work on the internals of this reel. And the internals start with the 3 screws being removed. Sometimes these are what I call thumb screws. They have a little rigid line on them. You can actually back them out by hand. In this case, that isn't so. You can still do it, but it's not like some of the others that are out there. Just loosen them up so that you can remove the side plate assembly. And that'll give us access to the gears. So these are nice reels. They're a more modern version of the Abu. And let's see if we can get it off. All right, so we have the spool and shaft assembly, as well as the main gears in the back. These seem to have been lubricated very well, but customer says that one of these is not running very well. So I use a Real-X oil. I'm going to go put some oil onto the gearing and onto the bearing assembly there. It is clean inside. There's maybe a little bit of grit in there, so we'll just go ahead and take a cotton swab and get that off. But for the most part, this reel is clean. If you really wanted to tear down this assembly, you can come in and pull these 3 screws off and clean that up. But again, this one's clean inside there. And then there's 2 screws that hold on the cover for this. That's going to enable us to get to that side plate assembly. Let's put the spool assembly in there for a moment. These can be removed by a Phillips head screwdriver or a flat blade, whatever feels better in your hand. Go ahead and use those. And these are small screws, so just make sure that you're patient when you take these out, and that you put them into a place where it's convenient and they're not going to get knocked all over the place and you're going to lose them. So for the most part, these reels have been around for a long time. The assemblies really haven't changed too much underneath. There's usually not too much of a surprise in here. You have the free spool release, which is this mechanism. You have the main gear. You have a ferrule, which applies the drag pressure. You have a gear sleeve that all rides on. And we'll just take it out and clean it up. Again, it's relatively clean, but it looks like it does need some lubrication, so that's what we'll take the time to do. We'll just make sure everything is clean inside there. We have an anti-reverse bearing sitting inside here. I like to oil that. Main assembly here, we don't need to remove it at all. If we did, it's not terribly difficult to do. You just pull it off of the set posts there. I'm just going to apply some oil behind there for the trip mechanisms. And we have a spool gear that's sitting in the main assembly, and we'll just go ahead and use some blue grease on that. Now I use a Penn Reels Universal grease. You don't have to use the manufacturer's, but I do find that it is appropriate to use a grease designed for fishing reels as opposed to general lubricants. They just seem to hold up better. I'm going to put a little bit of blue grease onto the trip load mechanism as well. All right, here's the balance of the story here. We have a little shim washer which goes over the main post. Kind of keeps that riding freely. On the back we have the trip mechanism. I'm going to just pull the assembly off to show you the internal gearing on this. So we have that trip mechanism that goes on next. And what's going to happen is this is going to engage when you push this down. It's going to engage the trip mechanism into here, and that's going to flip upon return. So just going to set that aside. Again, these are clean, so they don't need much. We have a fabric washer there which we're going to lube. Maybe that's a little bit of the idea, but again, nice clean internals on this one. Just going to use a paper towel to clean up some of the excess grease that's on there. I'm going to reseat the main gear then. I'm going to grab these fabric washers now. I'm going to put some dry grease on these. And I use a Cal's Universal Grease. What I like to do is just a little bit of a dab of grease on both sides of this. Then with my hand that's gloved, I like to work that grease in. And this is a series of alternating metal and fabric washers. On the metal washers, you don't do anything other than ensure that they're clean. Here's the second one of the washers goes in now, and then there's a tabbed washer that goes in the middle of the stack there. A tabbed or keyed or eared washer. It's called different things by different folks. That's this one. Just make sure that's clean, which it is. And then we'll put the last of the fabric washers, get that greased up. Turn that. Now if you weren't paying attention along the way, as you go to reassemble this and you get stuck, one of my recommendations is pull a schematic from the reel. That way you know the pieces and parts and how they go together. If it's appropriate, bring a camera, take a picture. Take the picture with your digital camera, with your phone, any of those, and that'll help you get back on track if you get stuck. So with that, again, this is a fairly easy service. We're going to take the side plate then, and the next step is to just reseat that. There are no springs here to shoot, so you're generally in good stead with that. Take those two little screws, and again, I can do this one from my parts tray. That's why I recommend that you do that. Some folks like the magnetic parts trays, some folks like the commercial ones. I've been doing this a long time now, and I'm perfectly fine with just the good old-fashioned bottom of a milk jug. But the point really is to keep these things within arm's reach, and to keep these things in a place where they're not going to get you into trouble by getting brushed aside. And I'm saying that as you're noticing those two little tension washers there for the drag collar. It's real easy just to kind of move something and knock them around. So just be careful when you lay parts out on your table. So these two tension washers that came out of that the stack there, they're bent, right? They have a flow to them, and that's because it enables you to do different tensioning on the drag adjusters. So you can spoon them like that. You can reverse them like this, face to face, and one more flip, you can go back to back on them, and all of those are going to give you a different tension feeling on that drag knob. So pay attention when you take them off. If you like the way that the knob is adjusting, pay attention, put them back the same way. If you find that it's not sensitive enough or too sensitive, then what you want to do is you want to come back in and play around with that, changing those settings. until you find one that gives you the right level of flexibility. Okay, so then we're going to put the star adjuster knob back on. It just takes a minute to get it seated properly. Be careful, don't force anything. If you force something, you'll cause it to counter strip, and then if it strips, then you got to go replace that gear sleeve. Okay, so that was next up, and if you recall, we had the little tensioning spring go, and a handle, and then we have to put that little E-clip on after the handle is in place. You can't do it with before the handle, but that's going to hold the gear assembly in. So you remember we pulled it out, so now you got to push it on. And I just generally use the little needle nose pliers once I get the two sides of it into the slot. That's what I'm kind of playing around with right now. I've got a little bit of grease on my glove there because of the drag grease, and unfortunately the little washer here is just, or the clip, is kind of sitting into my glove and not releasing. And we'll get that in a moment. I apologize if it's tough on camera there. Okay, so I've got it seated like that. And I'm going to just grab a little needle nose pliers, center it to the middle of the clip, just kind of push it on. And then all we have to do then is tighten down the handle knob. Find that 10mm nut, or wrench. And we should have that little clip, the retention clip. We line that up with the hole, and the good news is there's no more parts other than my spool assembly sitting in the basket there. So we've taken all the pieces and parts apart. We've got that working properly. We'll come over here now. This is a removable axle shaft, so I like to take that off, and I do like to put a little bit of wheel grease on there. Just for my thing, I'll just coat that lightly. Again, this glove enables you to do this without getting all the junk all over your hands. So I wipe off any excess. It's just a thin coat. Come back here and insert that. There's a bearing in the spool here. Just have some of this braid is wound around the spool. We want to get rid of that. And I'm just going to make sure we flood the bearing with some oil. And we can reset the line here. And reseat the spool. And I notice as I'm doing this that I have a piece of braid hanging out from the collar, so we want to make sure that that goes away. And then we can reset the reel. It's just a matter of lining these up now. There you go. Once you get that snapped in, and make sure that you're flipping. And this is running a whole lot smoother than it was. So that's kind of the idea. Most of these modern Abus pretty much use the same side plate technology, the same gearing technology, the same drags. The numbers on them usually refer to a wider spool, and generally you can find the ones that are of the generation by the handles, and these have these kind of bent handles as opposed to the flat tool handles, and they're the later makes of the model, and I believe this one was made in China. But at any rate, they're very dependable reels. As I mentioned, the technology is an enduring technology. It's been around for a long time. There's a lot of fans out there for this reel, and the purpose of this video is to show you just how to set it up to make sure that it lasts a long time to come. So that's it. We got a nice performer there ready to go back fishing. We'll do the same thing with this one off camera. But what I wanted to show you was how to maintain it, and it's the Abu 6600 C4 Ambassador. And with that, I'm going to thank you for watching. If you liked it, please indicate that. If you want to see more, please subscribe. Again, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Thank you for watching.